He went out to the field one evening to meditate. And I love that verse. It's actually, there's a translation issue here, to meditate, probably to pray, just to think, to muse in the field. He would go out and just hang out in the open country. Isaac was a man of the wilderness. He was a man of the open field. Now think about it. Abraham grew up in the city and moved out into the Badlands. Isaac always lived in the Badlands. He grew up in this cursed land of Canaan, in the Wild West. That's where he's from, and that's what he likes. I mean, you could think of Abraham kind of like a cowboy. He goes out into the field to meditate, and as he looked up, he saw camels approaching. Now there's actually camels in the narrative. As you go through Genesis, there's more and more camels. And actually, camels were entering into the history of the Middle East at this time. Interesting fact. Rebekah also looked up and saw Isaac, so she's coming for the first time. She got down from her camel and asked the servant, "Who is that man in the field coming to meet us? Who's that wild man? Who is that cowboy? Is he dangerous?" Turns out it's going to be her husband. "He is my master," the servant answered. So she took her veil and covered herself, because they're not yet married. Then the servant told Isaac all he had done. Isaac brought her into the tent of his mother Sarah, and he married Rebekah. So she became his wife, and he loved her. That's the most emotional section of all of Isaac's life in Genesis right there. He did love Rebekah. You're going to see in a minute that their marriage is rough. Their marriage is rough. He doesn't really talk to her, and she manipulates him. That's going to be the main thing that happens in their marriage. But they did love each other. At least he loved her. I don't know. Isaac was comforted after his mother's death. So just remembering a few things, Abraham, the progression of the dream here, the vision that God has given them, this is the first thing you can write down. Remember that Abraham, his relationship with the Lord was his only hope. He had taken this huge leap of faith. And in order just to survive, he's like crying out to God almost constantly, I think. Help me. People are going to kill me. I don't know how to live in this place. Abraham's relationship with God was at the very center of his life because he had no other hope. Isaac is different. Isaac, you don't see the depth of relationship between Isaac and the Lord. There is some, but in a lot of ways, and you see this in the church. You've seen people like this in your life, where one generation in a family, somebody comes to faith in a dramatic way. The next generation grew up in church, maybe. And maybe they don't, they're doing it seems like maybe partly because it was just their parents' faith. You see this in people today, and this is what's happening in this family. Isaac does have a relationship with the Lord, but mostly he's comfortable in his life. He's used to being in the Wild West. He likes it. He does listen to God. There's one moment in his life where the Lord actually speaks to him because there's a famine. He's tempted to go down to Egypt. Isaac does the same thing as his father Abraham had done, where his wife Rebekah is really pretty. And he's around some crazy warlord, this time Abimelech, and he's afraid they're going to kill him and steal his beautiful wife. And so he pretends she's his sister, just like his dad did. So he's following the same positive steps that his father had, but he's also following some of the same patterns of sin or fear, doubt that his father had. He follows God's plan, but he has little relationship with God. It's limited, in the second generation.